Hello, welcome to our first premiere episode of UFOlitics, Sasa City. My name is Testasticles. No, it's not. I'll blow my own name. I'm not Testasticles. He's my relative. I am Testicles. So let's try it again. Okay, take two. Hello, my name is Testicles. Yeah, okay. All right. Do it again. Cat. So when you came back to the USA from India, you had a decision to make. What to do with all your files, what to do with your research and so on. Then you come back to the USA, you find that the US in the media, thanks to the New York Times, has gone UFO crazy. And you write this memo that launches officially Operation Pandora's Box. We have the memo, it's right here. And this memo proves that you have followed this program for years and that today, all these years later, it is finally bearing fruit. This show is a result of Operation Pandora's Box, as is the UFOlitics series and the whole family of products to begin with. So thank you very much. So, when you are dealing with different TV producers over the years, you've worked especially with a man named Bob Kiviat. Mr. Kiviat is very well known. He has produced many UFO videos for Fox TV especially, but also his most famous video was actually on an infamous hoax, which was the alien autopsy film. That was Kiviat's claim to fame, so to speak. So tell us about your relationship with Bob Kiviat, how you met, and why you don't work with him any longer. Tell us the truth. Let the public know. Please, go ahead. So another thing I noticed about Kiviat is that he, over time, tends to speak in what I call royal we's, meaning all of a sudden what you did, he did, or we did, even though there wasn't a we, the way he's talking about. And over time, I started to see a pattern where he wasn't acknowledging people who had really done the work. He was claiming credit for it or implying that he had done it. And I saw this firsthand over the years on several productions. And I also got phone calls from people who were hurt by this, who were complaining to me, even though I couldn't do anything about it. And I'll give you a couple examples here. Years ago, when Bob Kiviat was involved in this lawsuit that he had filed because he was the victim of a techno scam, I arranged for him to be on my show, Cal's Corner, because I believed and still know that Bob was absolutely screwed over by Joe Firmich and the scam that went on there. Now, having said that and having written the article that brought this case to the public's attention, I'm grateful that Bob gave me the exclusive inside access and story so that as a longtime investigative journalist I could publish this, and I did. It's still today on the website Medium, and it's on my website calcorf.com, and it was an article that said here comes the judge, and it was about the CIA's Dr. Ron Pandolfi, the scam that Firmich had done, and the article exposed all this. But Kiviat didn't succeed in his trial. In fact, the whole thing was dropped. And it was dropped because Congressman Daniel Marriott told Bob Kiviat, and this is what Kiviat told me, that he would sick a bunch of lawyers on him and basically tie him up for the rest of his life. So Congressman Daniel Marriott, who's part of the Marriott family, Republican, he has been involved in that scam for a long time, meaning he funded a lot of it, pays money to Joe Firmich, and didn't really... Kiviat was screwed. He had a contract, they didn't honor it. Now, during this, I became very alarmed because Kiviat went from being a victim, of course, to wanting justice and getting paid and all that stuff that he was legally entitled to all of a sudden he's cutting deals for productions. And in my opinion, he's compromising the truth. And I'm not going to play along here. I'd done the article. It got published. It got a big reaction. And then he starts cutting deals. He does them behind my back, and then he also does them without really asking me, even though I'm affected. So I'll give you a couple examples here. The CIA's Dr. Ron Pandolfi. Now, I've known about Pandolfi for decades because he has fucked with and has screwed over and has lied and deceived and manipulated in the UFO circles. Friends of mine, okay? UFO colleagues. And I remember how he's talking to him. I've got a lot of these letters and emails. And this is a Ron Pandolfi that claims that his wife is an alien who arrived in Pakistan in a pod, like time pod, iPod, I don't know. Ask Pandolfi, ask Kiviat. So here we have a person who works for the CIA, scientist, real PhD, unlike fake Dr. Kevin Randall. He was credible when his name became known, and he was involved commendably in testifying over his realization that Communist China was using commercial satellite programs as a cover for ballistic missile nuclear weapons. Again, Pandolfi's a hero for doing stuff to stop that and bring attention to it as an analyst. But Kiviat cut a deal with Pandolfi that basically he tells me he's going to have Pandolfi in his show, UFOlitics, which is my show, not his. Again, this is part of what Kiviat does. All of a sudden, an idea he comes up with isn't even his, that's original. He thinks he invented it all and it's his and now he can run with it, even though other people have been doing this for years. Whatever. Anyway, he cuts a deal with Pandolfi, and Pandolfi, according to Kiviat, is going to appear and he's going to rat out everybody, the so-called aviary, and tell everybody what happened. And this is the first time that a CIA guy has ever gone on camera to do this. Yeah, right. I told Kiviat, and I still tell anybody, that Pandolfi's not going to do shit, okay? Pandolfi may rat out whomever. It's up to Pandolfi. I don't speak for him. But he's not going to sit there and come clean. If he's going to come clean, then what he has to do is admit what he has done. As I told Mr. Pandolfi in writing, I said, get any lawyer you want, get any CIA person you want, anybody you want. I want to ask you about this stuff in the expose article. And of course, Pandolfi never responded. He doesn't have to, okay? But my concern was this, and I told Kiviat this. When somebody works for the CIA and they have a high-level security clearance, when they claim that their wife is an alien and that she traveled to Earth in a pod and that she's a princess and from Pakistan, and they're telling their kids that she's an alien, I'm sorry, that unless they're kidding, that's kind of child abuse, isn't it? According to people I've talked to who are social workers, and I've even talked to people in the government who handle state child issues. They say, yes, if you tell your kid that your mom's an alien, that's grounds for problems. Okay? So, I'm not responsible for what Pandolfi tells his kids or what he tells the public that his wife is an alien. But as an American citizen and as a taxpayer and as a intelligence analyst myself, long-time analyst on intelligence issues in the private arena, I have a concern. Why is somebody telling the public that their wife is an alien who arrived on Earth in a pod at the same time holding a top-level security clearance? Really? Do we do that now? Is that what it takes to keep one? You got to marry an alien? So I told Kiviat that either Pandolfi's doing this on his own because he's gone rogue or whatever, or the CIA knows about this and they're okay with it. Regardless of the answer, Bob, we need to find out. So I made Bob this promise over and over and over. First of all, I wanted him to win in court because he deserved to win. That was my first concern. So I told Bob, I will not move to expose Pandolfi or do anything that's going to hurt your lawsuit. It's an issue of timing and all that other stuff. But that this data is going to come out. That I'm not going to play UFOlitics. I don't play UFOlitics. And then now Bob is starting to play UFOlitics, the very thing that he later claims, when he happens to stumble on the word, that he's trying to expose and all that. It's like, what complete bullshit. Okay? Wow. So, again, he cuts a deal with Pandolfi. He agrees not to name him in the lawsuit because he doesn't want CIA counsel involved. And Pandolfi, according to Kiviat tells me that Pandolfi's worried about his pension. He wants to retire soon. And he doesn't want CIA counsel involved. Of course, Pandolfi doesn't. So I told Bob that I would file a complaint against Pandolfi and that I would do it at a time and place of my choosing when it was the right thing to do. Again, Operation Pandora's Box. Duh, hello. But I would only do it after Bob's lawsuit had run its course. And it did last year. He told me it's over. He told me why. Went out on a whimper. Bob even lost his own lawyer. He lost his license. Bob, I don't know, tells you all this, but that's the truth. That's what he told me. If it's not true, blame Bob. So now there's the issue of Pandolfi. And there are these lies that Pandolfi has told the world, specifically a victim that he abused in Texas. I've heard the recordings. And I got a copy of some of them. And you're going to hear now for the first time because Bob Kiviat won't release it. Shame on him. This is fake. This is Dr. Ron Pandolfi of the CIA claiming that he had the Pentagon's ATIP UFO program shut down. He said he had it shut down. Pandolfi didn't have it shut down. He's outright fucking lying. I didn't have it shut down either. If I said I did, I would be fucking lying. And that is what Pandolfi is doing. He is on tape bragging about having ATIP shut down. And then he talks about Harry Reid. And he talks about Hal Puthoff and techno scams and criminals and mafia. And I'm hearing to this tape and I'm like, wow. If the CIA knows that this corruption went on, why didn't they do anything? Or did they? We don't know. Let's find out. If they didn't know, why does Ron Pandolfi know but they don't know? Is Pandolfi saying these things because he's under orders to provide disinformation the way he has for years in UFO circles? Or is he just doing it on his own? What is the answer here? Somewhere there's an answer. And no matter what that answer is, Pandolfi is screwed or fucked. Because if he says he lied, he didn't have ATIP shut down, he's hosed. If he did have it shut down, then we need to know that. And he's also hosed because we know it didn't go that way. Something else had to happen. So the truth is out there. But it is not what Ron Pandolfi said. So what I did is I told Kiviat, I'm going to move on him. I'm going to expose him. It's a question of when, but I won't do it in a way that harms your lawsuit. I promise you. And I kept that promise. But then Kiviat sells out, starts playing UFOlitics, tells me with a straight face that he's cut a deal with Pandolfi and he's going to get Pandolfi on camera in an exclusive and all this other crap. I said, Bob, it's not going to happen. Full of shit. And it never happened. It never happened for any of the other shows or pitches that he was sending to the network. I worked on those sales pitches. I did 19 different frigging files, presentations for him, what he calls decks. Yeah, they're decks. That's what the industry calls them. But when he tells me this, he's acting like I hadn't heard the term before. Anyway, whatever. So the point is, I did all this work. And then later I hear Bob Kiviat did it all. I got phone calls from people who said, Cal, I'm looking at stuff that I saw years ago that Kiviat's saying he did it. Really? Okay. So I saw this pattern with Kiviat, and I finally tell him, Bob, I can't help you anymore. It's over. Okay? I'm moving forward with my own stuff. I told you I'm going to do it. And although I tried to work with other people so that I wouldn't have to do all of it, you know, I just appear, do my scenes, let them produce whatever. But it didn't work that way. So when I realized that I have to do it myself, I looked at my group, changed the company, talked to Roy, my longtime friend and partner from Apple, who goes back with me for decades. He's the one that worked with me on the Meyer undercover investigation. The images you see of me holding the models Roy and I made, okay, to take to Switzerland. Roy was very much involved in that. Roy went out in the hills of the Bay Area with me to test flight these models with balloons before I took them to Switzerland. So Roy's always been there. He's a partner in all this. So I'm sharing all this with him, and basically we need to move forward. And what I did then is I gave the stuff that Bob Kiviat refused to do anything with to other journalists. And unlike Bob Kiviat, they're doing things with it. And they're not claiming that they're did whatever like Bob does. No, they're just doing it. And they're telling the truth. And what can I say? It's all out here. And the reason I'm happy to tell all of this stuff is because I want people to know the truth. And it's about time that it come out so that people can look at issues and decide what they're going to for themselves. But yeah, that's how it happened. Kiviat cut a deal, he told me, with Pandolfi. Haha. And I'm sorry, I don't play UFOlitics. I expose them. So I told Bob, I'm done. I'm moving forward. He writes me some message late in December last year saying, Cal, I'm confused. No, you're not. You're confused, as in capital C, capital O, capital N. Stop the con. I know better. Now, what am I talking about? What I did is I went to California secretly, undercover. Nobody knew I was there. Well, a couple people, need to know people only. And I went to Stanford Research Institute, and I posed in front of the sign there. And I had 2 thumbs up. And I took that photo and I sent it to Kiviat. And I said, Bob, I'm here and I'm shutting everything down. I'm finishing this stuff with Putov and Scientology. I'm shutting down this lake. And I'm, moving forward everything. This is the proof that this leg of this investigation is over. Then when I go back, I'm going to do other stuff. Again, I showed him what I was doing. And then I get a message like he's very confused. No, he's not. He's clear. I was clear with everybody. I went on many shows, damn it. Stephen Cambion, sent him hundreds of slides. Later stuff I sent Kiviat. Which now supposedly Kiviat did, right? Whatever. Anyway, so I'm proceeding with Operation Pandora's Box. I launched it formally immediately after the New York Times launched their bullshit lying propaganda UFO article in December a few years ago. That's it. The trail has always been clear. And on the cover for Operation Pandora's Box, you actually see the once classified memo that I wrote, several pages. And I gave this to people back then, and I said, this is coming. It's going to take a while. Then Bob Kiviat got involved with me, spent time on his case, did a lot of work with him on trying to get TV networks to expose this stuff. Worked on 19 different presentations for him. They were mostly my work, by the way. And from my files, all of it. I use the same stuff for all my work. It's the standard critical thinker stuff. Bob loved it. And what was funny is after he said he was confused, I don't know what game it is. I don't have a single adjective for it. But I'm not going to play along. And I have no patience for it. To be blunt, I don't trust him anymore. Period. If I have to deal with Kiviat, it's trust but verify. So what happens is I'm moving forward. And I asked Bob Kiviat through our producer, I say, hey, can you be on the show, UFOlitics, my show? And we're doing a segment on World's Greatest Hoaxes, Secrets Finally Revealed. I've already filmed those months ago. My segment just describing what it was like to go undercover in the Meyer cult and how my team was stuck there briefly was, I think, 22 minutes or something. It was all done in one take, just boom, one big brain dump. So then what happens is I've done these, and I tell Bob I just am not going to be involved with him anymore. Then I'm moving forward with my own stuff, and I had put my stuff on the back burner to try to help him. And it didn't work. And I disagreed with the way he was going. Because at the end of the day, Bob Kiviat was not going to use his own money to do anything. He was going to use other people's money, like whoever backed him, investor, studio, whatever. I'm not wired that way. I use my own money. And it's a lot of money to do this kind of investigation over the years. I don't wait for a gig to go do it. And while that's one way to get things done, it's not the way I do it. And so I don't like it when something doesn't come out because nobody paid the bill to get a platform to get it out. When you can do it yourself with a fucking couple of mouse clicks. Come on. So I had no patience for this. And then I finally told him, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I can't help you. And you can't use my stuff. And then, of course, it got really quiet. And then he calls me out of the blue. He's like, Cal, okay, but you know, your stuff is so good, and you know, we just need to tweak it a little. This music, can you do it? I said, Bob, I'm using my music for my stuff. I wrote my music for me. I wrote this in India years ago when I was working on this shit, okay? And you and I weren't in touch. And I remember later when I showed Bob one of these videos I had done in India, he says, Cal, where did you get these women? They're so hot. I said, Bob, I've been filming this for years, all over the world, with all kinds of people. And it just was surprising that he, I don't even know what to call it. Talk about selective memory. And now people start calling me saying, hey, you should hear what he's saying, what he's claiming. And we know it was you, not him. That's why I don't deal with him. So I told him, and I had investigations tell him that from now on, I will only talk to you through investigations. Everything must be in writing. And I want the name of your lawyer. We will deal with it that way. Trust but verify. Hardcore. So what happens in episode 1 at the end is you see that there's more than one example of UFOlitics. That's where all this is getting at here. There's UFOlitics where you go render a rendition an avatar that's rogue and you expose them like Nikki Pope or Tucker Carlson. But there's another kind of UFOlitics where you have producers playing UFOlitics for whatever reason. They're either not telling the truth about UFO cases like the New York Times, okay? Or you have people like Bob Kiviat who do things like they do it, and because he didn't get a gig, data didn't come out. And that, I'm sorry, that's wrong. There are other ways to get out free. You can just give it to people. If you really want the truth out, money's not your focus. So what happened is I decided to let it all out. And if that bothers people, I don't care. If it bothers people that I'm letting the truth out, then that's on the person, not me. If they have a problem with the truth, then that's their mental retardation. I'm sorry. I'm not going to validate anybody who has a problem or rejects the truth. Why should I? That would be insanity. They're the insane ones for rejecting the truth. The people who champion truth. That's not insanity, that is sanity. And we need a lot more of it in today's society. So I'll give you some more frustrations I had with Kiviat. And these are inexcusable. If Kiviat ever wants to explain why he did this, it's up to him. So I told him that I had filed a complaint with the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission against To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, as it was known back then, which also meant Tom DeLonge, Lou Elizondo, Dr. Hal Puthoff, Jim Semivan. Again, this is, I talked about this for years ago in the public. I went on shows like Stephen Campion's Truth Seekers. I showed slides from some of this. So I tell Bob Kiviat that, you know, I've got a case number. And I wanted to give Kiviat all this info. I mean, I'm the only person on the planet, apparently, who bothered to file a complaint against these people. And let me explain why that is just fucked. Here is a company that claims they have Roswell UFO fragments. They never did. They were called Arts Parts and they were a hoax and a fraud. I exposed that in my Roswell book in 1997. The Skeptical Inquirer, before my book came out, had published the expose of these pieces. Art Bell himself, who got these fake Roswell debris pieces, said they were a hoax. So Linda Moulton Howe, who is known as Linda Moldy Cow, her avatar in the series, I wrote a book exposing her when I was in India, her cattle mutilation bullshit. I wrongly believed that a book about mutilating cattle or cows would be popular in India, or at least of interest, because they view cows as holy religious things to worship over there. If you kill a cow in India, you're talking about a serious prison sentence, depending on what happens. They have underground beef eating clubs that if you eat a hamburger made from a cow, you go to jail for 7 years. So just like the U.S. had underground prohibition alcohol places, India has underground beef eating clubs. I've actually been in some of them when I lived there just to check them out. I wouldn't eat there because I didn't want to be busted in what I thought was a stupid circumstance. Anyway, to each their own country. But so what happens is I have this stuff and I want to give it to Bob, and I start sharing it with him, and he does nothing with it. And I'm not happy with that. I tell him that I'm going to ask Susan Goff about Pandolfi and let her know that Pandolfi is lying and making these claims. And I actually sent Susan Goff my report on Pandolfi. And I said, you don't have to write me back. In fact, I hope you don't. I don't want her to. I'm saying that here is what Pandolfi has done. And do you have any comments on it? I'm letting you know. And now in the show, and that's why I did this, because I knew I was going to come back and visit this. In one of the episodes, you're going to see us confront the Pentagon and Susan Goff again over this and say, hey, what about this stuff about Pandolfi? See, I'm doing all the stuff that I told Bob Kiviat I was going to do. I warned him over and over that as soon as your lawsuit thing runs its course one way or another, I am going to execute, like you won't believe, Operation Pandora's Box. I told several people this. I kept them in the loop. And that's why they were shocked, not happy, and let me know when people were starting to claim credit and saying things that were not true. And Bob Kiviat was one of them. So, again, it's all been out there. And so the reason I'm coming clean about this is I don't want the public to be confused. The show UFOlitics is this show. There's UFOlitics, which is the overall family name for a series of products. It's books, merchandise, ebooks, t-shirts, memorabilia, you name it. There's also the show, that's UFOlitics Saucer City. It takes place in Saucer City. It's one module in the overall thing. Just like the ufology books, which have been out for years now, have always been under the UFOlitics umbrella. So again, I want people to be clear about this. I'm not going to have anybody try to confuse the marketplace of ideas or the market out there, period, or the public perception. When you see UFOlitics, you see the logo, which is my design, my creation, my invention, going back a long fucking time. Back to the 70s. Hello, I've got the proof. It's me. If anyone else wants to claim they're me or my stuff, well, they're going to have to face the consequences of it. So what I did is I told Kiviat from the investigations email address, I said, from now on, we will only deal with you through investigations. That's it. We're done. And if you even try to do what you've been doing and you continue, I'm going to prosecute you. So on June 24th, the day that we launch the first episode officially, which is not coincidentally on the anniversary of the Kenneth Arnold reported or claimed UFO sighting, which started all this stuff, you're going to be able to download these documents regarding Kiviat and Pandolfi and others, and stuff that I've been working on for years to prove, like I said on Stephen Cambian's show years ago when I did a couple of appearances. I said who I was going to expose. I said how I was going to do it. I basically provided who, what, where, why, when, how. I even showed augmented reality dinosaurs moving around on my expose book pages because I told people, give me time. I'll release the UFO software. We'll do the AR/VR thing. We're working on it. And this show itself is again a milestone in that direction. So this effort has been ongoing for years. It's been public. It's been out there. I'm going through the front door. I'm not hiding it. If the day ever comes that any society that claims to be sane cannot confront fraud, liars and techno-scammers, and corrupt politicians and prostitutes, media that helps spread lies and untruths and deceive people and manipulate them and push agendas, the day that we cannot confront that straight up through the front door is the day that we lose everything and we have no right to exist as a nation, and let alone claim that we stand for all we say we do. You can't have it both ways. Fraud is fraud. You need to confront it through the front door. Deal with it straight up and tell the people what's going on. They can handle it. Just give them the truth. Never play UFOlitics.